Damas y caballeros, welcome back to From Across the Pond. Today we're previewing the San Jose Earthquakes 2022 season. To provide expert analysis, we've got Favian Renkel with me. So, my man, how are you? And thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I really do appreciate you taking the time to kind of getting to know the Quakes media, and I appreciate the offer to be on the show, and it's truly an honor. Thank you.
No problem. So, in 2018, when the Earthquakes announced the arrival of Matias Almedya, it was lauded as an incredibly ambitious move for the club. However, the potential as of yet hasn't really transpired and come to fruition. In 2019, his first season, they were just outside the playoffs. 2020, they made it with the expanded playoff field. And then again, last season, they were just outside the playoffs, finishing in 10th in the East, I think it was. So how would you describe the Argentines' time in San Jose so far?
Yeah, definitely ambitious, but it's like landing the hot girl at a high school, but then not giving her anything to play with, right? Or not giving her the romance that she needs. So it's definitely I don't know why Matias Almedya signed with us to be in the first place. To be honest, it was definitely what we always say in San Jose is a DP coach. We had a DP coach. And then we just didn't give him the financial backing to really truly kind of see his plan come to fruition. So that's the only really big issue in San Jose. We're still dealing with it today. I mean, he still goes on Argentine radio networks and says how he's not financially backed, and it's almost the same cycle for 4 years now.
Yeah, no, I was going to say DP coach, but no DP players, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
we only have one. I mean, we only have one, and then Chofis Lopez is a DP loan, which is like, okay, well, we'll take a DP loan, I guess, just because the way it works out, the money, it's easier to put him on a DP salary. But Matias Almedya, coming off of CONCACAF Champions League, hasn't had three DPs ever filled for his team. So it's just like, oh, well, this is kind of like a wasted opportunity.
no, absolutely, and I think that's lingering over the team going into the season. Obviously, he's out of contract. I think I'm right at saying at the end of the season. Yeah. So he's obviously, like you said, come out recently on Argentine media talking about probably letting that contract run out. So club's kind of in limbo as opposed with, and you've seen that with the moves in the offseason, kind of bringing in veterans and good players like young Grey Goose, but there and the Chofis Lopez, the extension of the loan, but kind of short-term moves that are not buying into the Almeyda system completely, but then at the same time not getting players for the long term for San Jose. So are they kind of in limbo as a club at the moment?
Yeah, exactly. Today, Francisco Calvo signed from the Chicago Fire on a 1-year deal and with a second-year option. But we like Jan Grey Goose signing for a 1-year deal. So if they're not young guys and they're coming in, usually they're on a 1-year deal to see if they work with, the last hurrah with Matias Almedya. So it's definitely, we're not going to see anybody come in. Chofis Lopez extension is actually only 6 months. So it's only half of the year. So if they don't re-sign Almeyda, I don't think they're going to buy Chofis Lopez. So that's another thing too. We're going to be without a true 10 for half of the season. And that's probably why they brought young Grey Goose in.
Yeah. Do you see, is there any chance you see Almeyda not lasting the season? Or do you think because of his stature and his name that they will let him play out his contract and then look for something new in the offseason?
I don't think they're going to get rid of him. They would have got rid of him after the 7-1 losses to Seattle, after the 5-0 losses to Portland. They will not get rid of Matias Almeyda because they owe him a big paycheck. And if they get rid of him, they're going to have to go ahead and pay someone else. So this team is really, really petty pitching. Like, they're not going to get rid of a lame duck coach because they feel like they are owed another year on his contract. So unless someone comes in and offers to pay his wages this year, which may happen during, like, let's say San Jose starts hot, they start with like 4 wins, maybe a Liga MX team that is, struggling might come in and offer, pay his wages and maybe a little transfer fee or something. But that's the only way I can see Almeyda kind of not playing out the whole season or not coaching the whole season. Because again, this owner in San Jose, Fisher, he knows that Almeyda sells him tickets. He knows that Almeyda gets him on national TV. He knows that Almeyda gets all this buzz and all this hype around MLS without having to actually buy a player, without having to buy an Insigne or without something. Almeida brings you a media circus, and, good press or bad press is good press, right? So.
Yeah, is that kind of then, just looking sidestep here, like a little tangent, is that a worry then for the post Almeida kind of era for San Jose? Because now obviously club legend like Chris Wonderlaski is gone, so there's none of that either with the club. So if post Almeida, post Wonderlaski, is that something that's scary for the fans? And
yeah, to be honest, if we fumble this, that we already have fumbled it pretty bad, we're not going to get a coach of his stature ever again. I mean, this is something that it looks, personally, I think if I was at the head of this club, I would at least make it so that, the high profile coaches get the financial backing they get, because again, this is everyone's going to know your track record now. Everyone's going to know that you had the CONCACAF Champions League winner coming off of, a stove, and you really didn't, give him any players that you truly wanted. And the argument is, oh yeah, he had players like Andy Rios and Carlos Fierro, which they were making, quite a bit of cash, a little under $1 million in MLS is basically DP level, but you can usually buy them down. I would counter that and say, hey, I mean, they weren't his first options. We went for, Alan Pulido, the Mexican striker that went to Sporting Kansas City, and then we failed on that. We went for Miguel Ayun, which was another Mexican international, where he went to Club America. So, I mean, there was ambition. We just struck out, and we unfortunately didn't have any second option, or we didn't have a plan. It seems like we signed the fourth or fifth option, players that needed a second chance, and we offered that to them, and it just didn't work out for them.
So looking at that, how do the club, and how does San Jose and Almeida make this last year together, this last year of the marriage, a foundational one and not a lost one?
Yeah, for it to be a foundational one, I think Chris Leach is actually doing a really good job bringing in young talent into this club. I mean, we brought in Oseni Buda, which is a player that we never would thought, would drop all the way down to the 7th or 8th pick. It's passing my mind, unfortunately. But yeah, I never thought he would go down to the Quakes in the draft order. But that's a player that we expected to go, top 3 in the draft. So that's probably the best attacking talent in the draft. So we are excited for him to be on the team. And then, as well as, we're getting a whole bunch of homegrowns in, and they get to experience a different style. They get to experience a different, language in the locker room, because Matias Almedya speaks Spanish. So they get all this rich experience with Matias Almedya at the helm this year, for their careers, right? So this can definitely be a foundational season for all the young players, especially like a player maybe like Keqal too. Keqal, who knows, plays in a La Liga or another league where they have a Spanish head coach, and this can be a rich environment for him in the future.
No, absolutely. And talking about that, the young talent, one of the players, he's not so young, but it was acquired last season, Jeremy Ebobisse.
Yeah.
Obviously came in at the middle of last year and trade from Portland. And with Chris Wonderlaski gone, obviously legend of the club, all-time MLS leading goal scorer. I think Ebobisse had 1 goal in only 759 minutes last year.
Yeah.
But what do you think a benefit of having a preseason with Almeida, with the club, can do, and how big and important is he going to be in this coming year?
Yeah, he's the guy, right? Chris Wonderlaski is not there anymore to kind of, be the safety net. Jeremy Ebobisse is the guy. I mean, we paid a hefty price tag for him to come in. I think it was 1.2 on GAM. Honestly, I thought it was hefty at the time, but seeing this Paul Arriola trade go down this last couple of days for 2.3, it's like, oh, maybe we got a steal on a, maybe the best heading number 9 in the MLS. So I think it was a great piece of business by Leach, the GM Leach, because we already paid for half of it. I mean, with last year's GAM and this year's GAM. So I truly do think it's a great piece of business. And the reason why he only had 1 goal in about 700 minutes is because Lalas Abubakar, the center back for Colorado Rapids, actually hit him in the back of the head, and he suffered a really big concussion, and he was playing scared out there for probably all those minutes. It looked like a player that didn't want to go to head the ball because they were just worried they're going to get that third and very crucial concussion. I mean, once you get your 3rd and 4th, that's retirement zone, right? So a player that's really good at heading the ball, and that was his main thing, was scared to head the ball. So it's definitely a full preseason, getting his feet right, is gonna do wonders for Jeremy Bobusi, and I have no doubt in my mind he's gonna get 10 goals in this season, especially with Christian Espinoza delivering crosses. I feel Christian Espinoza has never really had someone that can head the ball. I mean, Chris Wonderlaski is a great player, but he's more of a secondary striker. He's not really that stretching number 9, like let's say like a Lukaku or someone that's really like a powerhouse up there. We've never really truly had that. I don't know if you guys are listening, if you're like San Jose fans, Danny Husen, who went to Austin FC, wasn't that. I mean, he played for Ajax and he was more of a technical kind of 9. So it's really been like 6-7 years since Steven Lenhart, since we've had something like that, or Alan Gordon. So this is definitely a new page, and it's going to be exciting for Quakes fans, because we've never had someone that can head the ball. I mean, Keqal was playing the 9, and I've never even seen him head the ball. So it's definitely exciting for the Quakes to see more goals in by the choice of the header,
Yeah. And do you think, okay, so picture middle of the season, you talked about Espinoza there. He's obviously one of the better players, more talented players on the roster. But do you think the dream scenario for San Jose in the future and the front office is that in the middle of the season, say June, July, August, there's a front 3 of Yusani Buda, Jeremy Obobisi, and Keqal? Is that the dream?
That's the dream after Almeyda. so definitely I want Christian. You know what? I think Christian Espinoza is really good tracking back, because the man marking system makes him play defense like a right back, right? So I actually have been saying for Christian Espinoza at right wing back. I think that's something where we can get some more attacking talent on the field, and then we can get some more goals in. Right now we don't have a right back, so that's something that we definitely need to cover. But I think Oseni Buda, Jeremy Bobusi, and Keqal, if Keqal doesn't get sold next year or this year, I mean, looking at Kevin Paredes leaving, I mean, maybe, who knows? That would be the dream. That would be something that Quakes fans could look forward to in the next 3 to 4 years, because they're all relatively young and they're all very, very promising players. And even Jeremy Bobusi is not so young, but he's still one good season away of being in that, United Men's States, national team picture. Maybe one good year away, maybe 15 goals later, he's looking at transfers in Europe, right? So it's something that's very attainable in this MLS market, especially because all these young guys are leaving this year. So it's something that everybody can strive for. I mean, Jackson Newell is another player who was on the national team picture for this team, and maybe fell off the bubble a little bit, or fell off the curve, and one good season away from being back into the national team picture, and maybe in Europe too as well, because he's still relatively young. Who knows? But the ceiling is definitely high for a lot of these players. But again, we're on the younger side, and all they really need to do now is kind of soak in everything they can with Matias Almeyda. And that's the best thing they can truly do, because again, there was reports that he wasn't really bought in, and now he's saying things like he's bought into the players and he wants them to strive for their best, that he's going to stay the rest of the year. So definitely it's going to be a fun watch this year for the San Jose Earthquake fans and MLS fans all around.
Yeah, no, always an entertaining watch with his system. But Keqal obviously was a breakout player last season, into the first team, but he only had 14 starts out of 33 games played. So do you foresee this year Almeyda trusting him more and putting him in more starts, and him being having another breakout year?
Yeah, so he was actually called up for the US 20s youth squad, but Almeyda actually didn't let him go, because it probably means that he's fighting for that starting spot, and he's trying to gain the trust of Almeyda, or Keqal is possibly that fill-in role, because I mean, there is no one that's on the left side of this team that is the fill-in starter, right? We have Trophies Lopez as a 10, and then we have Jeremy Bobusi as a striker, Espinoza probably on the right wing starting, but that's not a gimme. So that left wing spot is open. Benji Kikanovic is another player where it's probably going to be a very serviceable MLS player in the future. He just bursted out on the scene when Jeremy Bobusi wasn't playing, and scored a lot of goals, or at least 2 or 3, but still had some great assists and looked like he had a lot of talent and a lot of speed. If Keqal doesn't break out this year, Benji Kikanovic definitely will.
Yeah. And okay, so that's what I was going to ask you next. So that would be your recommending outside of Keqal for the breakout player for San Jose?
Yeah, if you guys play So Rare, I mean, I have a lot of So Rare followers, but definitely Benji Kikatovic is a player where you can get him on the real cheap, real cheap. But he's definitely a player that, is maybe 6 or 7 games away from getting a look on the Bosnia team. So it's definitely a player that is under the radar in all MLS circles, but it has the trust of Almeida. That's a big thing as a young player, and has a lot of talent. I mean, in the Quake circles, you know how Keqal is fast. They always say, all right, who wins in a race? You or Cade, right? And Benji always says, it's me. But then, so the guy has confidence. He's definitely a younger guy, but if it's not Keqal breaking out this season, it's definitely give you Benji Kikanovic. They're both fighting for that same left wing spot, but Benji can kind of be a 9 as well. So he's our backup striker for Jeremy Bobasi as well. So he's definitely going to see some minutes in this offense. Buddha may get some minutes in, but I think he's more for the future. I think he's more next year or the year after when they sell Keqal. But I'm assuming with the transfers going out this year out of MLS, I think the owners may be pushing to start Keqal a little more this year, just to get him a little more reps, get him a little more experience. He was doing really well at the beginning of last year because all the teams were pressing us really high. So Keqal was getting in behind these defenders and taking one-on-ones with center backs. And then we all see those famous clips of him just manhandling the center backs. I mean, as a 17-year-old kid. So a lot of talent. He just needs to do a little more technical work with his feet. Maybe, create a opening for him a little bit more and learn how to head a ball. But once he does those 3 things, I mean, there's no way I don't see him going to like a Valencia for 6 million euros, right, in the next year. Who knows?
Yeah. And okay, so we've talked a lot about the attacking talent, and then but looking further back the pitch, the most important players, do you see someone, obviously Judson, Eric Remedi, really important in the system in terms of how Matias Almedya presses and the defensive work that they have to cover? Do you see them being one of the most important players in the kind of defense midfield area, or someone coming in like young Grey Goose? Is he going to have a lot to take on?
Yeah, Judson is one of the most underrated players in the league, but I would say the same about Eric Remedi now. I mean, he had, the highest, I think, fouls taken on by a player in MLS last year, and he does a really good job at kind of getting everybody to catch a break. I mean, in this man marking system, it's go, go, go. It's not like, all right, I'll take the zone. It's more of like a isolation. Yeah, I mean, we're talking from across the pond, right? So, I mean, if you look at your leads, right, they don't stop, so it's definitely a team where they need breaks here and there. So when he falls over a little too easy, it's like, oh, maybe they just need to catch their breath a little bit. But I feel like on the defensive side, at least the midfield, I think is pretty sound. Eric Remedi, Judson, Jan Grey Goose, and Jackson Newell are a good 4 to have. I think it's going to be a nice problem to have where you can't put them all on the same time. But they were racking up a lot of yellow cards last year because they were all tired from playing that man marking system. So that when they would give up a ball or they would give up a pass, they would have to run back all the way and cover the ground that the player now has. Instead of doing that, they would just foul him. I mean, and then kind of save their breath for the next attacking, time. So it's something where we're going to have a little more cover. They're not going to have so many holes in the lineup because of the yellow card accumulation now. So that's nice. The Grey Goose addition is definitely going to be a nice one. With the defensive side, I never hear anybody talking about this guy because he's truly an under the radar guy, but the San Jose Earthquakes have the best left back in MLS. And I'm going to say that with a straight face. Marcos Lopez is one of the best players in MLS. And I mean, if you guys watch him on the international stage, this guy is shutting down Gabriel Jesus like it's, Daniel Saloy. Like it's the same Marcos Lopez playing against Brazil, the same Marcos Lopez playing against Argentina with Di Maria. Like this guy goes up against, the greatest attacking talent in the world, and he still shuts them down like it's Johnny Russell from Sporting Kansas City, right? So it's definitely one of the best players in MLS, and this is a guy who's on his last year of a contract. Probably in 6 months, we'll see Europe, I would say, earlier than any other Quakes player in this lineup.
Yeah, no, he is a pretty good player with the Peru national team, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Now looking at your kind of expectations, predictions for this season, how do you see San Jose faring? Obviously, not just in MLS, because obviously this season we've got the return of the US Open Cup.
Yeah.
We've got Leagues Cup. So do you see them kind of, first of all, prioritizing maybe a fairy tale run in one of those two cups?
Yeah, the Open Cup is actually really intriguing because Matias Almedya used to really pride himself on those type of tournaments where it's win or go home type of tournaments. I remember the MLS's back tournament, we had a solid run because it was a win or go home type of cup, and he got the most out of his players, and he actually got transfers for some of those players going out because they played so well. So definitely, I feel like those type of tournaments we can do well in. I don't think we qualified for the Leagues Cup, but I'm not sure if all the teams, I have to double check if all the teams make it. I think it's only a certain amount, but I would love to make the Leagues Cup next year. But I always wanted, Matias Almedya to face Chivas again with San Jose and in the Leagues Cup, but it just, it's a fairy tale that may not happen. Our expectations as Quakes fans, and myself included, this team really hasn't done much to get better. I mean, yes, they've added Jan Goose, but we still we added Francisco Calvo as our third center back, which is a nice deal, but again, let in a lot of goals. And he's actually accredited for giving Wando his 4 goals to break the record. So it's someone that Quakes fans know as maybe he's not the best center back option, but as a domestic player and maybe as a cheap option, that's okay. Depth is always good. But I mean, you see LA Galaxy adding Douglas Costa. You see Houston going out and grabbing their Paraguayan international, which, is $6 million. You see FC Dallas, going out and getting a DP and Paul Arriola. So it's all these teams. I mean, Austin FC, right? Another team that's just going out and getting all the teams that didn't make it in the West and now are getting better. And then let me throw another wrench in there. Nashville is now in the West. So it's just like, come on. Like, are you telling me like this main stay in Eastern Conference playoffs is going to now be in the West? Like, it's just harder now. So it's definitely going to be an issue. LAFC with Carlos Vela, getting completely healthy, and Chicho Araujo having a full season there. Who knows, really? I mean, I want to say the Quakes can sneak into an 8th spot, but man, everybody in the West is getting better. Maybe Sporting Kansas City got worse, or Real Salt Lake, maybe they kind of come down into reality. But sneaking to an 8th spot is going to be tough. I think all 3 Texas teams are going to be better. I mean, no Texas and no California teams in the playoffs last year. I mean, no LA Galaxy, no LAFC. So it's going to be a tall task to even get into there. Plus Nashville getting in there. So it's going to be tough.
It's looking very, very tough. But I just want to say, thank you for joining us, and thank you for having it's been a great chat, and hopefully we talk again soon, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks, guys. If you want to follow, just go ahead and follow me at Favian Renkel, and then if you want to go more Quakes news, it's Tonic Takes. I appreciate it, guys. Take care.
I'll have all your links down in the description. Don't you worry. But thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Cheers.